Hello and welcome to Cutter Farms. Today I'm going to show you how to use AutoDrive to automate the unloading of your combine while you're driving it. This is something that I know a lot of people like myself love to drive the combine during harvest, and you don't really want to have to deal with the grain cart all the time. Sometimes it's fun to run around with the grain cart, but for the most part, I've got to say running the combine is probably one of the funnest jobs on the farm. And so let's go ahead and jump into things. The first thing that we've always got to do with a new field here is get it opened up. And if you like playing like me somewhat realistically, you're probably going to be taking a couple of headland passes off on your field. All right, so I am down here on the other end of the field again, and as you can see, I've taken off one headland pass all the way around the field. And so what I'm going to do is just back up to the corner here. We're going to take off another headland pass, and this is the point at which I would normally want to start setting up my automation so that I don't have to run the grain cart anymore. I can have it catch up with me and unload on the go, since there's now a full swath over there that the grain cart could take. But in order to do that, I need to clear enough space here for me to create a little bit of an AutoDrive course for the grain cart to unload into the truck. I've got a grain truck over here that we're going to be using for today's demonstration. And so all I'm going to do is really just take the corner of the field out here, give me a little bit of room to maneuver. And this is what's going to allow me to have a little bit of an AutoDrive course set up here. So bear with me for just a moment as we clean this out. Now, depending on the size of your equipment, you may need more or less space that I'm clearing out. I'm just grabbing a few rows, and let's go ahead and pull our truck here onto the field. Now, you may want to have a AutoDrive network set up to run your trucks back and forth from the farm, things like that. I'm not going to cover all of that in this video, but for purposes of what we're doing here, I'm just going to put this truck right here. This is where we're going to assume this truck will be when we're ready to do some unloading. And we're going to be creating an AutoDrive course. So we've got AutoDrive here in edit mode so that I can see my record button. And this is going to be the simplest AutoDrive course that you could possibly record. We're going to get kind of close over here to our truck, keeping in mind we've got the unload auger here on the left side. I'm going to go ahead and get this auger out. It actually helps to have some corn in here to make sure that when you're lining things up, you're getting into the right position with the truck. And I'm going to go ahead and hit record, and we're going to give this very first point a name, and we're going to call this whatever field it is. I don't know, field XYZ, and then I'm going to call this combine. And this will become clear here in a second, and then I'm going to bring this here in, and we're going to find a good unload spot. And see, I'm already unloading here, but what I want to do is actually pull this forward a bit until we get one more point here, and I'm going to name this field XYZ unload. And the reason that I pull forward a bit here is to, and this point pulled quite a bit forward, so you can just hold the right mouse button down when you're hovering over that to maybe pull that point back a little bit closer to where you want to be. But it's always good to have it be past the truck a little bit to give you some runway in case the truck is in a slightly different spot, or there's all kinds of things, but you always want the point to be just a little bit past where you want to go. And as you can see, I've recorded points all the way around back to our original starting point, and I'm going to go ahead and connect these so it's a nice little loop here. A little bit lopsided, that's all right. And then all we have to do is come in here and change our mode into unload combine, and you'll see there's 2 points here, and this is why it was so important to create this field XYZ combine point. This is the point that the driver is going to drive to when it gets full and wants to start unloading. And so I always want this point to be heading into unloading onto the truck, and then this unload point is the actual point at which it unloads. So this first point that we do is always important to think about where you want your tractor heading when it's got a full load. And so with both of those points set, I can go ahead and just hit the go button, and you can see immediately I get this red message here, no harvester with the same target found. Now that's because it's trying to find a combine on this field to go and unload. Before we get into that though, real quick, let's take a quick look at some of the vehicle settings in AutoDrive. There's a few settings in here that I always like to check on. The first one is this unload fill level. And as you can see at the bottom here, after unloading the combine, directly go to deliver at this fill level. And so this allows you to tell AutoDrive how full do you want the grain cart to be, so that if it gets done if the combine gets done unloading into it, it'll check, and if it's this amount or more, it's going to drive back to the truck to unload. 85% is okay. I actually tend to like to run mine a little bit fuller. The reason why you might want it at 85% is, let's say you get done and you've got multiple combines on the field or something. There's not enough capacity left to really unload, and so you're going to end up with combines sitting around waiting and different things. So this is really up to how big your grain cart is, how many combines you might have on the field, all kinds of things like that to consider. The other two things that I like to do is restrict the pathfinder to the field so that he will make an attempt to stay on the field when he's figuring out where to go. This doesn't always work, but most of the time it does help quite a bit. And then you can restrict the unloader to the field when he's unloading. And so this means he won't try to drive off the side while actively unloading, which is a really important one. And then these two are the default settings, but avoid fruit is on. And so he won't try and drive over crops. And then park in the field means that after he's done unloading, he's just going to stop where he's at and wait until the combine needs to be unloaded again. And that's important because especially on bigger fields, you don't want him driving all the way back to the waiting point on AutoDrive, but sometimes you might. So with those settings set and AutoDrive turned on here, we're going to go ahead and jump back into our combine. Now, if we look at the settings on the combine side of things, there's a couple of important settings on the combine unload settings. The first is this pre-call level, and this is the level at which he's going to request a driver to come out to the combine. And this is especially useful on bigger fields. As soon as the combine gets to 60%, it's going to send a call out, and the unloader is going to start moving towards the combine so that it's not so far away. And then if you have two or more unloaders, especially useful on bigger maps, this one will say call the second unloader to come out if the first unloader gets to this same level. And then the last setting, which is most important for what we're trying to do today, is unload harvesters while driving. We do want the unloaders to try and unload us while we are actually moving, rather than waiting until we've come to a complete stop. Depending on your grain cart, you may want to come in and adjust some of these pipe offset settings. There's the ability to set the left and right offset of when it's trying to come up and drive next to you. So with all of the settings out of the way, the last step here on the combine is going to be to set this to the field XYZ combine point. You need to match the point that the AutoDrive driver has his destination set to, and that's why I named this one combine versus the unload point for actually unloading into the truck. Sometimes I'll call it combine and truck. It doesn't really matter what you call them. It's just this has to match the setting on the grain cart driver. And so with that set, I'm going to turn off edit mode here just to get rid of the annoying lines, and we're going to start combining here again. And so no matter what, if I put the arm out on the combine, it is going to call the grain cart driver. So as soon as my arm comes all the way out here, you'll notice the cover popped off of that grain cart and he starts moving. And he should come and catch up with us here as we continue harvesting. And because we've got a pass off on the outside already here, we should be able to unload on the go. We're running out of field space here though, so this is one of those situations where he's gonna not detect enough space at the end of the field, and if I don't want him trying to follow me while I'm making this corner, I'm gonna go ahead and put my pipe back in, and you'll notice that the tarp went right back over the hopper there. And so I'm going to help him out and not run him into the ditch, and we're gonna leave our pipe in for a second as I clean up this corner. We're doing a terrible job here. And then now that I'm going straight again, somewhere that I can actually be unloaded, we're going to toss the pipe back out here and let this guy catch up with us. We've got a almost full hopper here, though, so we've got to watch our percentages and hope that he's going to catch up with us before we get to the end. I can help him out a little bit. I'm going to slow down to a couple miles an hour here, just so that I don't get full before he gets here. And he didn't quite get here, so I'm going to go ahead and stop and wait. While the AutoDrive driver does work pretty good most of the time, sometimes it can be just a little bit slow to find a path when you take a sharp corner like that. And so it's not perfect, but it works pretty well. And it sure beats having to jump out and run back over and grab the worker and deal with everything over there. And so now that we've got some emptied out here, I always like to get at least to 75% before I start moving. We're going to start moving again here. And we're going to let the grain cart driver go ahead and catch back up with us. He should be able to figure it out, but he does take a moment to kind of speed up and get going here with us sometimes. And sometimes it takes him just a second to calculate a path and figure out where you're going. That's, again, why I said I always like to wait till I'm about 70% full. But once he catches up, he'll usually do a pretty good job of keeping up with you. It can be a little dicey on the curves, so I'm crowding to the inside a little bit so I can turn more gently. Honestly, if you've ever tried to unload a combine in real life going around a curve, it's pretty difficult. So I've always been impressed with just how well AutoDrive works here, and I'm going to take a sharp turn here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn the pipe off, and you can see as soon as I do that, he tarps up. And we're going to make the turn here, and then I'm going to go ahead and stick my pipe back out now that we've made the turn, and hopefully he's going to catch up with us here again. Although he might actually be full now that we've unloaded into him. So yep, he is. So rather than catching up with me, he hit that 85 or more % in the grain cart. And he's going to go now and unload into the grain truck. And so we can see here he's got 504 bushels in the grain cart. He moved to that first point, and then he is going to try and move forward into the unload point. And so we're coming up on the grain truck nice and slow here, and he's going to continue to unload everything that he can out of the hopper. And this is where he's gotten now to 27.8 bushels. And he's going to sit here and wait until he can finish getting empty. And so this is the one kind of trick, I'll say, with AutoDrive that you do have to kind of think about is now I would need to go and unload this truck to keep this automation going. Or if I wanted this driver to keep going, even though I don't feel like unloading this truck right now, I could just hit the double arrow here and tell him, you know what, why don't you continue on your course and get back to working with the combine. And so in order to do that, he's going to come back over here to this combine point and wait until he detects a combine waiting to be unloaded. Now, this is the one thing to think about when creating these points is you'll notice now I'm pointing away from the core part of the field. One thing we could do to maybe make this a little bit easier on the combine driver is I could move this point maybe back here a little bit so that I'm facing more into the field or something. But either way, if I jump back over here into the combine, as soon as I start moving, you can see that the grain cart driver is going to detect that I've got my pipe out and I'm ready to be unloaded. And so he's going to run back out here and start working on keeping me going. And like I said, if you're going to be setting up this type of automation, a lot of times you're also going to want to set up some kind of automation for your truck so that it's going and getting unloaded and coming back on a regular basis. That way your grain cart is going to be able to keep unloading into the truck and keep itself moving. You can see the grain cart found a place to go turn around back there and is hopefully going to catch up with us before we get full here. We've got some pretty short rows here, so that's the other thing to kind of consider when deciding if you want to use automation is it needs to be a field that's got long enough stretches here to justify having the grain cart try and come out here and unload on the go. Hopefully you found this little tutorial on how to use AutoDrive to automate the unloader useful. If you have, hit that like button, helps me out a lot. That's all for today. Ketterk out.